In this section, we will be studying ratio, rates, and proportion. We will begin this section with ratio. By definition, a ratio is a quotient comparing two numbers by division. A ratio of two numbers, A and B, may be represented or expressed in different forms. We may express it as A to B or as A to B with a colon separating the two numbers, or it may be expressed as a quotient A divided by B. For instance, a ratio of 1 to 4 girls to boys on a team represents that the number of girls is 1/4 of the number of boys. For our first example, we will write the ratio 32 minutes to 6 hours as a fraction in lowest terms. Compare in minutes. We must first convert 6 hours to minutes. Since there are 60 minutes in 1 hour, we must multiply 6 times 60 to convert 6 hours to minutes. This gives us 360 minutes. So the ratio may then be written as 32 minutes to 360 minutes. To write it as a fraction or a quotient, we write it as 32 over 360. Notice that both the numerator and the denominator are even, therefore 2 will divide evenly into both numbers. However, we would then have to reduce it again. So by observation or by using prime factorization, we would find that 8 is the greatest common factor of both of these numbers. Notice that 8 would divide evenly into 32 4 times, and 8 will divide into 360 45 times. Therefore, we can write 32 as 8 times 4 and 360 as 8 times 45. Canceling the common 8 gives us the reduced fraction 4 over 45. Now we can write the ratio as 4 minutes to 45 minutes. For the next example, we will write the ratio 2 3/4 to 3 1/6 as a fraction in lowest terms. We will first convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions. To convert 2 3/4 to an improper fraction, we multiply 2 times 4, add 3 to that result, and then divide by 4. This gives us the improper fraction 11 over 4. Converting 3 1/6, we will multiply 3 times 6, add 1 to that result, and divide by 6. This gives us the improper fraction 19 over 6. We now have the ratio 11 over 4 to 19 over 6. We are instructed to write the ratio as a fraction in lowest terms. So we will write this ratio as a compound fraction. In order to simplify the compound fraction, we must take the reciprocal of the denominator and multiply it by 11 over 4. The reciprocal of 19 over 6 is 6 over 19. So we multiply the numerator of the compound fraction 11 over 4 times the reciprocal of the denominator 6 over 19. To multiply the two fractions, recall that we multiply the numerators and we multiply the denominators, giving us 66 over 76. We can reduce this fraction since 2 will divide evenly into both of these numbers. We can write 66 as 2 times 33, and we can write 76 as 2 times 38. Canceling the 2's gives us 33 over 38, our ratio in lowest terms. In our next example, We will find the ratio of the shortest side to the longest side of a triangle. Notice that the shortest side is 3 6/10 and the longest side is 6 4/10. So the ratio is 3.6 or 3 6/10 to 6.4 or 6 4/10 or 3.6 over 6.4. We will now convert the decimal numbers to mixed numbers and then to improper fractions so that we can write our final answer as a fraction in lowest terms. We may convert 3.6, which is 3 6/10, as the mixed fraction 3 6 over 10. Multiplying 3 times 10 and adding 6 to that result, then dividing by 10, will give us the improper fraction 36 over 10. We can reduce this fraction to 18 over 5. We can now write 6.4, which is 6 4/10, as the mixed number 6 4 over 10. Multiplying 6 times 10, adding 4 to that result, and then dividing by 10 will give us our improper fraction 64 over 10, which may be reduced to 32 over 5. Now we have a ratio of 18 over 5 to 32 over 5. We can now write this as a compound fraction. In order to simplify the compound fraction, we must take the reciprocal of the denominator and multiply it times the numerator. We get 18 over 5 times the reciprocal of the denominator, 5 over 32. Instead of multiplying the numerators and multiplying the denominators as we did in the last example, we're going to first cross-cancel to reduce our fraction. We will start with 5 that the denominator of the first fraction and the numerator of the second fraction have in common. That is, 5 goes into 5 one time and 5 goes into 5 one time. So we cross-canceled. Notice that 2 will divide evenly into both 18 and 32. And 2 goes into 18 9 times, and 2 will divide into 32 16 times. Now, multiplying the reduced numerators and denominators, we will get 9 over 16, which is our ratio in lowest terms. Our next topic in this section is rate. By definition, a rate is a special ratio of comparing two measurements with different units of measure. In our first example, we will write the rate 22 cups for 14 people as a fraction in lowest terms. We simply write the rate as 22 cups divided by 14 people. And written in lowest terms, it will be 11 cups for 7 people. We will now look at what is known as unit rate. This is when the denominator of the rate is 1. For our example, we will determine the unit rate in gallons per square foot of the ratio 724 gallons of water for every 400 square feet. So we write the rate as a ratio 724 gallons divided by 400 square feet. In order to write the unit rate, we simply divide 724 by 400. Then the unit rate will become 1.81 or 1 81/100 gallons per square feet. In our next example, Terry kept the following record to keep track of the gas he purchased for his car. We want to complete the table as indicated, rounding our answers to the nearest tenth. In order to find our solution, we must determine the miles traveled So we will subtract the current odometer reading from the previous odometer reading. That is, on September 4th, when Terry filled up his tank, he had 3,762 and 8 miles on his odometer. On September 16th, when he went to fill up his tank again, he had 4,166 and 7 miles on his odometer. So we must subtract the previous reading from the current reading on the odometer, which is 4,166 and 7 minus 3,762 and 8. When we perform the subtraction, we determine that he traveled 403 and 9 miles since his last fill up. So we will fill in miles traveled on the table with 403 and 9. Next, we need to determine the miles per gallon. So we will find the rate by dividing 403 and 9 miles by 14 and 2 gallons. Since it took 14 and 2 gallons to fill up the tank on September 16th. Now, in order to find the unit rate, we simply divide 403 and 9 by 14 and 2. We have determined that he got 28 and 4 miles per gallon during the time period from September 4th to September 16th. In our next example, we are asked to find the best buy of an item based on unit price, given the information here. To find the price per unit in each scenario, we simply find the quotients price divided by ounces and round answers to the nearest cent. We start with $6.20 divided by 16 ounces. When we divide, we get 39 hundredths, which is equivalent to 39 cents per ounce. The next one, we divide $7.56 by 24 ounces, giving us 32 hundredths, which is the same thing as 32 cents per ounce. Finally, we divide $10.48 by 36 ounces, giving us 29 hundredths, which is equivalent to 29 cents per ounce. Therefore, the best buy is the 36-ounce size. Our next topic in this section is proportion. By definition, two ratios are in proportion when the fractions are equal. The property of proportions states, let A, B, C, and D be variables that represent real numbers, where B does not equal to 0 and D does not equal to 0, then A over B equals C over D if and only if A times D equals B times C. For our first example, show that 5/8 equals 15/24 represents a proportion. In order to show this, we simply multiply 5 times 24 and 8 times 15, so we are cross-multiplying. When we perform the operation of multiplication on both sides, we get that both sides equal to 120. Therefore, this is a proportion. For our last example, we will write the proportion 5 1/3 is to 3 2/5 as 5 3/9 is to 3 4/10. In order to write the proportion, we must set the two ratios equal. So we will first write the ratio 5 1/3 divided by 3 2/5, and we will set that equal to 5 3/9 divided by 3 4/10. We will now use cross multiplication to check the answer. We will first convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions. We will not show the steps for converting mixed numbers to improper fractions since we showed it in 2 previous slides. But 5 1/3 converts to 16/3 and 3 2/5 converts to 17/5, giving us the ratio 16/3 divided by 17/5. On the right-hand side, 5 3/9 converts to 48/9 and 3 4/10 converts to 34/10, giving us the ratio 48/9 divided by 34/10. To check to make sure that the proportion is true, we will cross multiply 16/3 times 34/10, and we will set that equal to 17/5 times 48/9. Multiplying the numerators and multiplying the denominators, we get 544 divided by 30, and on the right hand side we get 816 divided by 45. Now we will cross multiply again. That is, we will multiply 544 times 45, and we will set that equal to 30 times 816. When we perform the operation of multiplication on both sides of the equal sign, we find that both sides equals 24,680. The proportion is true since both sides are equal.